Hey, hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we are here today for episode 3 of Steve Talks 2. And my guest today is JV Gachs. Jules, how are you doing today?
Fine. Thank you so much for thinking of me and inviting me.
Oh, thank you for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, so cool. I watched the first two, so I was excited to come and chat with you.
Oh, whenever someone says that, I get nervous. Like, I hope I didn't say anything stupid.
No.
Okay, I always get
Well,
nervous.
you're speaking in your first language, I assume, so.
I'm not very good at it. It's my first language, and I'm not very good, so I think we'll be okay. But for those people who aren't familiar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of the books you write?
Well, I write horror, and I have been published in some anthologies. And I have novel coming out this December with Off Limits Press. It's my debut novel and it's titled Epiphany.
Hmm.
And I mostly write horror related with motherhood, I guess women desire and anti-fascism.
And you've only been writing. You've been published. Your first story was published about 2 years ago. You said.
Yes, yes. My first short story that was published was actually the same in Spanish and English, and it's a fantasy comedy story. Actually,
What
and I
made you
decided, I rather write horror.
What made you start there with fantasy comedy?
Um, well, I joined a fantasy writing workshop, and while I was doing this workshop, a friend died. Like
Hmm.
it was really sudden. Like he dropped dead, and wanted to write a short story about it, but I wanted to make it funny, trying to cope with it in some way, making comedy out of it.
Hmm.
So it's a short story about an immortal race where in which suddenly one of the members of this race gets too bored with life and just dies. But since they are an immortal race, they don't have funerary rites of any kind. So they have to try what other races and tribes are doing. And so they try to burn him and drown him or bury him, but nothing works. So they just end up just leaving the body up against the tree, and they create a whole new legend and lore about
Hmm.
why the body is there.
Oh, was it
You know,
therapeutic?
which was not so far off from like,
Was writing that story therapeutic for you?
yeah, it was. It was actually, and I think he would have liked it, and that also made me think like he would have laughed about that. So
That's always nice to think of it that way. That he would have enjoyed it too if you would have read it. Yeah. And for your upcoming novel, what's your upcoming novel about? What's the synopsis for that?
yeah, I always struggle with thinking about the synopsis of Epiphany, um, because it has two different timelines. One goes forward and the other goes backward, and it's told through a sort of found footage. I guess
Hmm.
I don't know if you would call that in a novel or just
Yeah.
the movies, but it's podcast episodes and news clips and things like that. And then there's a more traditional narration over that. And it's basically a novel about women's desire and how that's weaponized, and also motherhood. But there's monsters and human monsters and
Of course, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
murder and um, that sort of things. But it's set in Spain, in the north of Spain, which
Mm.
is where I live. And the creature in the book is Ashana,
Mm.
which is a nymph from the woods that longs to be a mother.
Oh.
And she basically tricks women to get their babies. And sometimes she would give them one of hers, sort of a changeling kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, to get them baptized and learn the human language. But they are evil creatures,
Mm.
basically.
That
And
sounds
the
great.
kind of story to get kids to behave, better behave, or the Shana will come get you.
Is that a folk tale there in Spain?
Yeah, in the north of Spain.
North. And our friend Robert Atone is here, and he had a question for you.
Yeah,
How difficult was it to keep the two timelines in mind while writing?
awful. It was, it was awful. I had calendar, and I had written like the main uh, events for the year that the main timeline happens, and see how that would fit the other one, because one of the main characters is interviewing a girl in a prison, and she's telling a story, and as she tells the story, all the things are happening in the podcaster timeline. So I had to also keep track, like when she says this, then this is happening. But it means like in the past, this happened, and it was awful. And I also had to, because there's a pregnant woman in the book, I also had to keep track
Oh.
of when is she due, and how how many weeks will she be here and here, and it was really crazy. And but I think I managed to make it make sense.
How did you keep track of the timelines? Did you have like a board or like
Yeah,
a spreadsheet somewhere?
yeah, yeah. With like a big calendar
Wow. And
with
that
like one going and the other one coming, and lots of different colors. And
that sounds like it could get messy pretty fast.
yeah. So the novella the novella I wrote afterwards was much easier. It was just like
Just
it really felt like I had taken off back a backpack. Like I was like, "Ooh, I'm so much alive now."
how big of a change was it from writing short stories to writing your novel? Was that a big change?
It wasn't, because actually the first thing I've always, I think, as every writer that I know has always written in some way or another. So I had always written, but I had never finished anything, because I just I had the idea, I had the outline and everything, but then at some point I would hit a wall and then lose momentum and then just let it go or whatever, until I heard Neil Gaiman say, I don't remember how it was phrased, but it was basically, well, you don't have to write in order. You can write out of order if you have an outline and you know what's happening. If you get to a scene that for
Mm.
some reason is not working, but you know what's going to happen right after that, or even at the end of the book, just go write that and then come back. And it's like, you
Oh,
can do that. Is that allowed? Um, so the first thing I finished was actually a novel.
oh, okay.
Awful, awful novel. It was very tropey, and I had stolen the looks and personality of people I knew, my friends. So it's basically not very good. But once I finished it, I sent it to a writing school in Spain, and they would do this report about
Mm.
it. It's like a professional critique, I
Mm.
guess. So they would talk about characters and pacing and plot and what works, what doesn't work, how to make it a better book. And they basically hated it, obviously, as they should. But um, what they said was like, okay, but the pacing is fine and the language is fine, so you would just read the whole thing and then realize what a bunch of crap it is. But it will keep you going.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I can work with that. I can learn how to do things in a less obvious way. I can learn how to do characters better. And so then that's when I started attending workshops and I started
Mm.
doing short stories. And it was also really good practice because for the fantasy workshop, we had to do a 1,000 short story every week
Mm.
for 3 months. So that's a lot of
That's a lot of writing.
stories. And it's a lot of writing. And it's a really good practice because it would give you a prompt or something you were supposed to work for the short story. And it was also a good practice to have to come up with a story to fit something that they were asking for instead of
Mm.
just waiting to be
For
inspired
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So it wasn't writing short stories was more challenging actually
Mm.
than writing something longer.
Was there a prompt that they gave you that you thought, "Oh, this prompt is really hard," but it ended up being a great story that you wrote that you're really happy with?
Hmm, I don't remember. I don't really remember what the prompt was, but one of the prompts they gave us, or something they wanted to work with us. I think it was trying to do a big reveal at the end or something like that. Ended up being Baby Girl, which is the story in What One Women Do, but also was the seed for Epiphany. So
Oh,
I think pretty decent for a short story.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what so you said you've been writing for how long have you been writing for and just not sharing it with anyone?
I when I was a teen, I used to write a lot, and my first degree was in. It's not called that because it has a stupid name, but it was cinema, and, and so when I was studying that, I also um, used to write, but then I stopped. I changed. and did my classic
Hmm.
degree, and, and then I stopped writing because I had my own business
Mm.
and other things to do, and I just kind of filled my life with that. But then one 6 months, wasn't even a year, 6 months before COVID hit, that's when
Oh.
I started writing the author novel. So it was a great time. I think lots of people had the same process.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it. But it was a chance to better ourselves too. So
What?
it was a chance for us to get those things done. But we didn't have
Yeah,
a whole lot of options. So.
yeah, I had the Spanish lockdown was really strict. We were actually inside our houses for 2 months and a half or something like that. And you were only allowed to leave your house to get groceries, and not even like, oh, you can go every day shopping. No. Or you could take your dog for a stroll around your block or something like that. But basically, you were really in lockdown.
Wow.
And I know it was awful, and I know COVID is it's really an awful thing. But for me, with with my own business and all the stress that was, because I had two employees, and
Mm.
it was really and it was a tutoring school, so I had to deal with kids and parents and everything and taxes, and then suddenly capitalism stopped, and um, I didn't have to worry about any of those things, and I didn't have the stress, and
Mm.
I had the time to just draw and read and write and reconnect with that creative part that had also realized that she could write out of order and get things done.
Sometimes it's the simplest answer, isn't it? That we just don't think about, and then once someone says it, then it's like, why didn't I ever think of that? Just right out of order.
I really felt stupid after that. I was like, why didn't it just occur to me? I was like, no, I think it's because sometimes people gives you these um, advices, and they pretend they are written in stone,
Mm.
and so it's like, no, you have to write your story from beginning to end and do this and do that, and you believe you have to do that when really no, just do whatever works for you.
Mm.
What do you need to get the words on the page? Do you need to write every day, or you need time to think and then go back and write, or does it work for you to write 5 minutes a day, or just do whatever works for you?
Mm. Sometimes it's the simple answers that are most useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. On your website, you it mentions that you're obsessed with sudden death.
Hmm.
Where did that come from, or what is it about sudden death that you're obsessed about?
Well, it started in a very precise moment when I was studying in Italy, and my uncle died, and he was perfectly fine,
Mm.
and then he died. And it wasn't only that he was my uncle, he was, I used to live with my cousin. So I was losing my uncle, but it also felt like my I was losing my sister's father somehow. So, and then that was really hard. And then 6 months later, my grandma died
Mm.
in the same way. She was eating a banana, and then she died with the banana in, in her hands, which I think it's a pretty good way to go. If I have to die, I know it's going to be awful for the people that care about me, but you don't have time to be afraid. Probably you won't suffer or anything. But it was also if like, okay, this thing now runs in the family.
Mm.
I'm like, and then you start to get scared about what about my mother, my other aunts and uncles, and my cousin and me. and then and then this friend died like
Mm.
that. So I don't have this experience of death as something that comes after a long illness or anything like that. It's not a process that you have time to, I don't know that it's coming. I think both things are horrible. But in my family, the thing is like that. It's more common to just have those things. And what obsesses me about that is, well, it can happen,
Yeah.
and nothing, you don't have a guarantee it's not going to happen. So it's not that I'm going to go crazy and go all carpe diem and do crazy shit because I'm going to die tomorrow. No, but it really puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, why aren't you sharing what you write? What's stopping you? What's the worst thing that
Mm.
could happen? And maybe you will regret not doing it. And so that's why I'm obsessed with Silent because it's unpredictable and horrible.
Yeah. The not being able to prepare for it is the worst part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can, and then the last thing you ever said to that person can be horrible.
Mm.
It can be it could have been something, I don't know, just to be like, oh, bike milk or whatever. It might have been, I love you because you were saying goodbye on the phone or something. But what if it was a fight?
Mm.
And you are not going, it wasn't probably going to be a fight that would last long or anything. It was just something stupid. But then it's not something stupid anymore when that's the last thing you said to that person, who obviously doesn't care unless he or she are coming back to hunt you. But you have to make peace with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. Matt's fantasy book reviews. The pandemic was a good thing.
No, no, no. It wasn't a good thing.
You heard it here first.
Capitalism stopping was a good thing.
And our friend PL Stewart. Hi, Steve and JV. Just stopping by to say hi. Do you have a recommendation for which of your books I should read first?
That's what I call horror. An anthology of 19th horror. Because I really, 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 really love that story, and I really love the rest of the stories in it. I think everyone did such an amazing job that there's something for everyone in there.
It's a great
Because
cover too.
it's of everything. I think it's the perfect anthology, and Chelsea Pumpkins did a great job curating something that has something for everyone.
Yeah, great cover too. And PL, that is so interesting as to why you were compelled by sudden death. Sorry for the loss of your uncle and your grandmother.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to ask you about female villains and what, because you also mentioned you love female villains. What is it about female villains that you love?
I think um, I was I didn't know how to say it, but I didn't want to exclude, I don't know, female squirrels villains. 'Cause the thing I think sometimes, most of the times, women have to be likable to earn their place in a story.
Mhm.
Why? I mean, women are people. So women can be horrible people too.
Mhm.
So I think what I find interesting about that is that sometimes people will go against that and don't like a character because it's a woman and it's complex and
Mhm.
horrible. But then you can have complex, horrible characters that people love. But why are these certain type of characters need a higher standard? So most of the protagonists in my stories are women doing horrible things, probably for good reasons or not. And also the one of the main characters in Epiphany, I don't think she's likable at all. I didn't write her to be a likable character. She's selfish and she does really horrible things. But I think the important thing is that you could understand those things, and also being selfish and a bad person doesn't mean you can't outrun that, because
Mhm.
it's a coming of age story also. So she's a kid, she's a teen, and then, well, she could have learned, not to be those things if she hadn't met people that were willing to weaponize that against her
Mhm.
and use that against her. In this case, monster.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite female villain in a book or a movie that has inspired you or that you really love?
mm, I have one in mind, but only because it was my favorite character when I was a kid. And it's, I don't know how you call her in English, it's Malefica.
Is it Maleficent? I think.
Yeah, the one from the Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, oh my god, she's pissed off because she wasn't invited to a party to the point of cursing a whole kingdom.
It was probably a good party though.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I need to be vindicated.
I'll show you. Yeah.
It was my favorite character when I was a kid, and I even used to. My mom made me a costume, with the horns and all in the 80s. I was going to say 90s, but really it was the 80s.
It took effort. It wasn't like it was like it is now, just for sure.
No, 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 no. My mom was very crafty. So thank you, mom.
And PL Stewart mentions, thanks for the recommendation. Yes, that's a great cover. I've been getting more and more into anthologies. Never really read them until recently.
It's
Because
also filled with many cool actors that have novels and novellas out and things coming that I think you're also going to love.
Hmm,
I think
nice.
that's the good thing about anthologies. You get to read things for writers you like, but then also discover writers that are new to you, and then you can go on a treasure hunt finding, oh, what else has this person written?
It is nice, and it's a small investment too, so it doesn't take long to read it. So that's nice too.
Yeah, I'm studying a lot now, the dullest topic in the world. So, but I don't have time to engage with novels, and I don't even have the mental capacity right now to lose myself into a novel or not even a novella. So I'm reading short stories now. I'm
Hmm.
reading more anthologies or collections that I had on my to be read. It's like, okay, now it's time for you.
Which one are you reading now?
I'm reading, I actually have here, I'm reading She Said Destroy by Nadia Burkin, and I'm loving it. So far, there's like, it's one of those persons that you are reading a story and then you have to pause and think, how the hell does she do it?
Yeah, yeah. It's. I love when you do that when you can pause. We talked a little bit about Nightmare Land before we started recording, and we both love that series.
Yes,
It's kind of what I thought too when I read that one.
obsessed. I also have it here because I thought, okay, I bet we're going to talk about this.
Yes. And you would never guess, but Daniel is the nicest person you'll meet. He's the most pleasant, calm.
Why wouldn't you guess?
No, because you read, and it's funny, but a lot of the people who write
Yeah,
horror are like the nicest people. It's weird.
yeah, but I actually think if he wasn't, he couldn't have written the Nightmare Land Chronicles because I feel like there's so much heart
Hmm.
in those books. And before I started studying, I started another one of his earlier works, but I don't
Um,
remember the title.
the was it the box or
No,
I'll
the
look it up.
one with the dentist,
Oh,
Hungry Friend or My Hungry Friend or something like that.
I will look it up as you're talking.
Okay, so and it's the same thing. It's there's monsters and it's horrible, and he can write these really scary moments. But then there's this everyday um, stuff that really hits you, and you know, I think horror comes from caring.
Hmm.
You know, if you don't care and if you don't have um, relatable characters and a knowledge of human emotions, you are not going to be able to write a powerful horror story, at least not as powerful as this one, you know?
Hmm.
So I don't want to make spoilers of the book that I don't remember the title.
Was it was it Miss Rawl?
No,
Longrieve?
no,
My hungry friend?
that
Okay. There we go.
one. um, the main character is in charge of taking care of his elderly mom, and I think she has, I don't know, she has dementia of Alzheimer's, or so there's this horrible thing that's happening, and there's monsters and creatures and stuff. But then there's all this other story going on that really makes you care about the character and understand him and why he does things. And I think the scary stuff is more powerful because it's set in this story. It's not just goo and blood and being bodies.
Yeah, that's a good point about understanding human emotion and being able to convey that on the page. It's not easy to do, I would imagine.
I guess you have to. I think there are lots of people that are not willing to look at themselves
Mm,
to try to realize that you're human and nothing human should be or nothing human is alien to you. You have good things and bad things also, and I think recognizing those things in yourself and in others and trying to understand, okay, why is this person doing this, doesn't mean you need to forget them or to be okay with their actions, but I think it helps you understand your own emotions
mm,
and how you deal with things and how you cope with things. And then in doing so, I think you can create more or rich character.
mm. That's a good point.
So if
Um,
you're an asshole, your stories are going to be just so so.
I guess that's one way to tell, but yeah. And is
Well,
that
I know there's many assholes that have written good books.
yeah, it's true.
I can see you wrong.
They sneak by sometimes. Yeah. Is that part of why you like reading and writing horror? The
Yes,
emotion?
yes, yes. I think I don't really like, I guess, extreme horror.
Hmm.
I like the kind of horror that has you sobbing at the
Yeah. What's the last book you read that made you cry at the end?
Lily. That's the
Hmm.
last, the last. It's number 6 or 7 of the Nightmare Land Chronicles. Completely devastated.
That was a tough one to get
Yeah,
through. Yeah. Yeah.
we should make like a group of damaged people.
I'll sign up for it. Yeah. Yeah, that was a it was a yeah, that book did damage a lot of people for sure.
Yeah,
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 definitely.
and I think he loves that.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah, I'm sure he does. I think I would imagine most horror authors enjoy that, right? When you have that kind of response, whether it's you make someone cry, you make them afraid, or
Yeah.
an emotional response is probably a way to tell that you're doing a good job.
I think even someone hating your book
Hmm.
is also an emotional response. I mean, okay, you care enough to hate it. There's probably some reason why you hated it. So
Hmm.
I think
What is it?
indifference is the worst
Oh, yeah.
possible reaction to your work. Like, I didn't even go past the second page, so I don't know if I hate it or like it. Just
What is it like to have to get negative feedback, whether it be a critique from someone reading your story or from a reader or from a fellow author? What is that? Has it been an adjustment for you? That's something that I think, struggle with.
I think it depends, but I know I wouldn't have been able to deal with it when I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
But now that I'm in my 40s, I think I can deal with it more or less okay. I mean, sometimes it hurts. I guess it depends from who it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But then my way of seeing it is it's just one person's opinion. And same goes with praise. I mean, the fact that this person loved this story doesn't mean it's going to be universally liked. And the fact that this person hated the story doesn't mean everybody is going to hate it. But then obviously sometimes you get a rejection that also comes with some kind of negative feedback or whatever. And then for some reason that stings. Then you can be in your feelings for a moment and allow yourself to eat ice cream and feel like you're never going to write anything worthy ever again. But then just you need to just get back to send the story out again or try to see if something they said um, for some reason resonates and you can go and check something. Maybe some of the negative feedback want to say, oh, okay, I didn't see that, now I can go change it or not. But mostly I think I try to not see it also as not liking me as a person. And also when you write short stories or when ideally you have more than one book out, not everybody is going to like every book you write or
Mm-hmm.
every short story. I mean, maybe if someone really liked Hail Mary Full of Rage, which is my story in It Was All a Dream, maybe they are going to hate About a Girl because About a Girl is lighter and it has some comedy in it and it's not about a mother killing her newborn. But a bunch of girls trying to summon Kurt Cobain with a Ouija board.
Oh,
And
okay.
obviously that going completely wrong.
That is very '90s. Yeah, that fits right
Yeah.
in. Yeah, I'm a fellow '90s kid, so I really appreciate all the '90s stuff. It's
Well, then you're
the
going
best
to
decade.
stop this
Yeah,
one.
it's. I have a copy. I just haven't read it yet, but I'm ready to go. Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm a sucker for anything '90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good time for us.
Yes, yes, definitely. Yeah. And
I,
speaking
I
of,
teach kids
I'm sorry.
and I teach kids
Oh,
and teens and I it was awful. The day one of my teen students just showed at the door and she was completely dressed as my best friend from high school. I was like, okay, it's here.
it seems like the '90s is kind of being it's kind of becoming more popular again, like that time
Yeah,
period. Yeah.
yeah. I think the 80s crazy is slowly letting way for the colorful 90s.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I really like it. And so our friend, the world according to Jay, is here. Hey
Hi.
Jay. And he mentions my 13-year-old calls it the late 1900s.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
When you say last century, it doesn't mean the same thing
Yeah.
as when we were teens. And you still think, oh, 30 years ago, and the 70s. No,
Yeah.
not
No.
anymore, baby.
No. Yeah. It was nice being able to say that. Like 30 years ago was the 70s, but those days are over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our friend Jay, I know he's a big Pearl Jam fan. Do you have a favorite band or music from that era?
I do, but they're Spanish.
Hmm.
So in the 90s, I really liked this band that was Cristina y los Subterráneos. And because it was a girl singing, but she was a rocker, and she wore a leather jacket and jeans, and she had crazy hair and stuff, but she did pop basically. And then I don't know if they count as 90s. I think it's more of the early 2000s, but Placebo was my
Um,
favorite band. I think it's late 90s, probably
yeah, I think so. I think they
more
were
when I
right around
was
that.
in high school.
Yeah.
98, 99, something like that.
Yeah, I like Placebo too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Do you listen to music while you write?
Only when I'm drafting, and I listen to movie soundtracks. And only when I'm drafting, because when I'm editing, I read aloud the
Hmm.
story, and then the music bothers me. I read it, or I have my computer to read it to me, so she can pronounce everything right.
Do you catch a lot that way when it reads back to you?
What?
Do you
Sorry.
catch a lot of things to edit when it reads it back to you like that?
I mostly, when I'm doing that, it's not that I'm looking for mistakes or things like that.
Hmm.
I'm looking more for things where, or places where I should have put a description, and I didn't. And things like that, because my first drafts are really just bones
Hmm.
with no meat whatsoever in them. And it's, I think I'm trying hard to get that right from the get-go, but um, I'm struggling a bit, yeah. Because I see the scene in my head. So when I'm doing the first draft, I'm just writing dialogue and action mostly. But
Hmm.
then when I go back, I realize, okay, but the rest of the world isn't is not seeing this that you have in your head. So now you have to give them, you know, access to that, and also not be overwhelming,
Hmm.
and just give um, whatever is necessary to paint a picture, but also give room to fill the spaces.
Hmm.
So that's what I look for when I'm getting the story right to me. It's like, okay, so I can stop and go back. And then when I'm doing line edits or trying to make it sound better, then I read it myself,
Hmm.
because my computer doesn't really have any kind of inflection in her voice, and she doesn't make stops and things like that. She doesn't have intention. So
Hmm.
when I do that, I read the stories myself. So then the music really bothers me. But when I'm drafting, and what I want is some kind of emotion to push me forward with the story, I do listen to soundtracks. And I especially listen to the Newton Brothers soundtracks to Mike Flanagan's shows.
Hmm. Midnight Mass.
Yeah, and Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House. they're really, really creepy, but also it's also relaxing when you
Hmm.
are writing. And then when I'm doing action and emotional stuff, I listen to the piano soundtrack.
Do you have a favorite author?
I do have many favorite authors, and that's a tough question. Um, I think my favorite author would be a tie between Gabriel Garcia Marquez
Hmm.
and a Spanish author from the 19th century, Benito Pérez Galdós, and Boris Vian. Because I didn't used to read that much horror until I was in my 30s or something like
Hmm.
that. So my teenage years and my youth and whatever my formative years, I used to read more realism than any other thing. And then Boris Vian, however you pronounce that in French or even in English, was my introduction to surrealism and stories that could have more to them than just the real world. And then obviously Gabriel Garcia Marquez, as much as his stories are called magical realism, it's fantasy. I mean,
Hmm.
there's magic, there's creatures, and it's fantasy.
Hmm.
Even you want to say it's magical realism to sell more books and make it sound more literary. And that's the same thing they are doing now to Mariana Enrique. They are here. They are saying like she transcended the horror genre, and no, she wrote a great horror novel, and it's so good. People that doesn't read horror are reading her books, but it's horror, and those are my favorite authors.
I'm gonna have to look those up and see check into them.
Well, they are really, especially Benito Perez Galdós would probably be a tough read because he it's lots of Spanish costumerism
Hmm.
from the 19th century,
Oh,
and
okay.
but it's also it's fun. It's lots of romance and horrible people in those books. And he does have some fantasy and some horror on it. He has a short story where he wakes up and then he realizes that he doesn't have a head. So he just touches his neck and put his finger inside his neck and he's like, "Where is my head?" And that's the title of the short story. And then he goes looking for his. Oh, I must have left it on my office. And then he goes see if he had left it there because he was writing and he had sort of a headache, so he must have removed his head and left it on the table. So he did dive into horror a bit.
That's a bad morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick, Gold Jewels.
Hi.
That sounds like a great story. Do you have any favorite book to movie adaptations?
Yes, I have two, and for very different reasons. The first is I should have checked if the title in English was the same. It's like Water to Chocolate
Yeah.
from Laura Esquivel, and it's one of my favorite book to movie adaptations because it's really faithful to the source material. It's
Hmm.
really like page by page, and it's really nice. And then Um, it's not book, it's comic book to movie, but it's The Crow.
Oh,
It's not, the movie is not faithful to the story in the comics, but it's faithful to its vibes. So even if the story is not exactly the same, the feeling and the taste of it is the same. And obviously, Interview with the Vampire. Come
okay. Those are
on.
great choices there. I mean,
It's not,
yeah.
is the book or the movie better? I think they are different,
Mhm.
and they are all really good books and movies and adaptations of books also.
I'm I'm surprised more people don't love Interview with the Vampire, the movie. I thought it was a great adaptation from the book.
People don't love
I
Interview with
I,
the Vampire.
I think I think people dislike Tom Cruise as the stat for some reason. I thought he did it. I liked him in that role, but
I think he did a great Lestat. And I
oh,
think him being some sort of evil character himself really suits the character.
mhm.
I think
Yeah,
I think he did. I managed to forget who he is when I'm watching the movie.
yeah.
So I think that that's a good thing. I managed to forget his, oh, that's Mission Impossible guy or Top Gun or whatever. No, he's this cool vampire that's horrible, but that we love.
Yeah, he has a lot of movies that he's totally different characters like Vanilla Sky or Mongolia or
But
Top
do you
Gun.
know that Vanilla Sky is a remake from Spanish movie,
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
and Penelope Cruz plays the same character in both movies.
Have you seen the Spanish version?
Yeah, yeah, obviously. It was
What?
I watched it at the movies,
Oh, what? Which one do you prefer?
the Spanish one.
Of course, right?
I was studying cinema when Vanilla Sky came out, and one of my teachers used to make fun of it, and he would refuse to even pronounce the name right,
Hmm.
and because it wasn't translated, the title when it was released here, it was
Hmm.
still Vanilla Sky instead of whatever the thing, and he would say Vanillaski because he hated it. But I think it's a good movie. But I think the Spanish version is better because it's less straightforward,
Hmm. I'll have to
even
watch it.
less.
Less. Yeah. And Jay had a comment. Your story, Baby Girl, from the What One Wouldn't Do anthology, is still one of my favorite short stories that knocks me in the head and leaves my mouth hanging open.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
That's, that's high praise from Jay. He reads a lot, so very high praise.
Yeah, I've gotten that from that story from a couple of people, and a couple of women reached out to me to say like this is a topic that we don't feel is talked about often in fiction. So using that and then spinning it on its heels, like they felt really, I don't know, connected to the story.
Hmm.
So that
That's
really means a lot.
that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was because I think that's the thing. What you're trying to do, or at least what I'm trying to do, when you're writing stories, and instead of putting the stories in a drawer, you decide to um, put them out there for people to read. You're trying to connect
Mhm.
with people and to connect with people that are going to feel something similar to what you were feeling, or feel related to the themes you are dealing with in your stories. So
Mm.
it was a great feeling. I get a bit. I think it's easier sometimes to get negative feedback or something when you just don't have to react at all, just like let it be. But then um, I don't want to be too excited.
No, be excited. It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay, but it's also like okay, don't be creepy now.
Yeah, creepy's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's okay to be creepy. I did have a couple more questions for you that I wanted to ask you. One of them was, do you have a favorite family recipe?
Do I have a favorite family recipe? I do, and it's not a fancy uh, recipe or anything. My grandmother used to make black beans with white rice,
Hmm.
and somehow the flavor she got, no one has been able to reproduce. And it's not that she had any secret ingredient or anything. I don't know what she did to that, and I still remember, the that flavor. And whenever I eat that, it's not the same. It's not the same.
There's something about those simple dishes when we were young that we just
Yeah,
it's just nothing will ever be this. It won't ever be quite as good
yeah,
as it was when grandmother made it. It's
yeah.
not the
Because
same.
I remember my mother was, because she had to quit studying when she was a teen to work at the family shop, and but then when I was in school, she got back to it. So I would leave school and then go eat at my grandparents' place. And I remember the smell. They lived in the fourth floor, but I remember the smell of that dish from the moment I opened the street door and going up the stairs, because obviously there wasn't a lift or anything, going up the stairs, knowing she had made that and knowing it was going to be great.
And our friend Rachel is here. The secret ingredient was love
Yeah.
and salt mined from the deepest trench of the highest mountain.
Yeah.
So the next question is there a hobby or activity that you were excited to try, but when you tried it, you didn't like it?
Cross stitching.
Not
I
for
thought
you.
it was going to be relaxing because
Yeah.
I do knit and I do crochet, and I thought, okay, maybe cross stitching must be relaxing, and then I can do bitmap illustrations and then do my own patterns and something like that. I absolutely hate like the most stressful thing I've ever done in
Really?
my life. Yeah. Like, I'm doing this for 7 hours and I have two letters.
So it wasn't relaxing.
Not at all.
No, no.
I think some people might find it relaxing, but it wasn't for me.
How long did you try it for? Did you try it for a while?
No.
Not very long.
No, I do enjoy trying new crafts and things like that, but I know right away if it's for me or not. Like I tried it for a couple of weeks and it's like, no, not for me.
Well, at least you know right away that it's not for you.
Yes, I know, but then I have like full um, shelves and boxes of many different, whatever you want to do craft wise, you can probably find the elements in my house. Hopefully.
Do you do a lot of crafting?
Yeah, because I find it really relaxing, but not cross stitching.
Which one? Which craft? What's your favorite craft that you do find relaxing?
Drawing
Drawing.
and crochet. And I do enjoy drawing when I know it's meant just for fun. I'm not going to try to monetize it in any way, so then it's fun. And same goes with crochet. Like, this, I'm having fun.
There is something that changes when you monetize something. When you're doing it for another reason, it's not the same.
No, because then pressure
Hmm.
comes in, and then not that fun anymore.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My next question is: if the zombie apocalypse happened today, what would
Hmm.
be your weapon of choice?
I don't think I would have any kind of weapon because I would probably be the first one to go. I'm not equipped to survive the first 5 minutes of the apocalypse. And I don't know if I want to, but if I had to pick something that I had at home right now, it would probably be knitting needles or something like that.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's a zombie apocalypse. You could pierce some eyes and reach into brains to disconnect them.
There you go. They come in handy after all, right?
Maybe I would last 2 days.
I think I'd probably be one of the first to go to. I don't think I'd last very long. Yeah,
No, I think so. I don't think I want to last very long.
yeah.
Because once you have last very long, then you have to start searching for resources and shelter and
Sounds like a lot of work.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And the last question I have for you is something I like to ask all of my guests, and that is, what was your first job?
I was a waitress and I hated every minute of it.
Did you?
um, I was a waitress in a small restaurant in a really, really, really small town in a valley in the north of Spain, which is right in front of a convent from, I don't know, the 15th century or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
So it used to be a very touristic place, and it still is, but they built a new highway that doesn't have an exit there. So now you have to want to go there to go there. You know? So basically, when I started working there, because I was living nearby, it was just a regular bar in any tiny, small village in the north of Spain. So the clientele or the patrons or whatever was basically uh, men in their 60s to 80s, and I was too young, and they were mean bastards. Basically.
How long did you work there?
Worked there, I think, for a couple of years,
Oh wow.
and then I waitressed in. couple of other places that I equally hated.
Was it better than the other?
Yes, it was better, but basically I hated it because of the my employers, not the people coming. The other two places, the people were really nice, and not so much the people that have to pay me.
At your first job, were the people that you worked for, were they easier to deal with,
Easier to
or
deal
were
with.
they
No,
nice to you, or oh,
no, 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 no,
oh.
no, no. And I remember he told me, and I was 20, I think, and it was my first job. And he told me that he wasn't going to help me. So I should be able to deal with uh, those men by myself because he wasn't going to do anything for me. And were men that would do things like leave 50 euros or something on the table and ask if it was enough.
Hmm.
Like not for the lunch or whatever. Like, and and my boss wouldn't do anything. Like, so are you going to let these people come here and just do that or say that to me, and you are not going to say anything? What am I supposed to do? I'm just a waitress.
Hmm.
Can I kick them out? Or what? So no, he wasn't nicer either.
Hmm. Not a good first job.
No.
No. But Jules, I know it's late for you, but I want to thank you again for staying up late
Okay.
with me. Yeah.
Oh, it's not that late. It's just
Okay.
1 in the morning.
Not too late, right?
Not too late.
Not too late. But if anyone wants to find you or more about you and your work, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on my website. That's jdgach.com. And that's my handle on Twitter and Instagram.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's easy to remember. Just my pen name.
And your novel, you said it's being released. When can we pre-order that, or is there a date?
It's going to be released next December, but I still don't know anything else yet. Don't
Oh,
know when it's going to be available for pre-order. But I assume sometime around October, I guess.
we'll keep our
Even
eyes peeled. Yeah,
time.
plenty of time. Nice. And Rachel mentions just really early, not late. I think I lost your sound. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay, now?
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Thanks again for hanging out with me and staying up early with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. It was really
yeah,
fun.
yeah. Thank you everybody for coming by and interacting with us in the chat. It's always a great time when people come by and hang out with us. So until next time, hope everyone has a great rest of the week. And Jules, thank you again for taking the
Thank
time.
you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.